Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon and I are going to break down Game 4 of the 2025 NBA Finals, where the Oklahoma City Thunder basically felt like they were losing the entire game, and then they pull in Indiana Pacers, and they come back and do it to the Pacers themselves. This series is tied 2-2. Oklahoma City wins. Let's get into it.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? I want to start this podcast with something that we said during the last podcast, and I tweeted out recently. I try to be the last person to tell people how to fan or what they should or should not like. But man, Sam, if you aren't watching these finals and you aren't enjoying these finals,
yeah,
I just don't know what to tell you. Like, we must watch a different game of basketball or enjoy a completely different version of what this is. Because tonight was amazing. In general, these four games have been amazing. Especially tonight, it was two very contrasting styles of basketball. Maybe you can help me with the name here. I saw a stat from Karithika Yukamore. I don't know. On Blue Sky.
Nailed it, I'm sure.
No, you follow her as well. So I thought maybe you would be able to be like, no, this is how you say it.
So doesn't mean I got the pronunciation on that one.
There you go. So I apologize to her because this is a couple times now where I've seen great stats from her after a finals game. So go follow her. And I apologize for mispronouncing her name. But OKC had 10 assists tonight, fewest in the finals since the Bullets had 5 in 1948. And OKC recorded 211 passes tonight compared to the Pacers 357. It's just amazing stuff.
It feels like the Thunder remain very stagnant on offense.
So stagnant, Sam.
Nothing has really changed there.
No.
This is a game. The Thunder win 111-104. Let's get the final score out there.
My bad.
J-Dub goes for 27, 7-3. Shea goes for 35 on 24 shots, 10 of 10 from the line. J-Dub and Shea go 21 of 21 from the line. That's like the biggest difference to me in game 4 versus game 3, right? Is the free throw line was just enormous for the Thunder. And I honestly, I didn't see many bad foul calls in this one. I didn't think. I thought it was fine. I thought, actually, that's a lie. I thought both of the flagrants were kind of strange, but I digress.
Yeah. Real quick, I hope they didn't open Pandora's box where we have to call those the rest of the series, because I felt like they had to call the one on Dort after they called the one on Toppin. I actually thought the one on Toppin was worse than the one on Dort. I thought Toppin
that one was a bad. I didn't understand that one at all. That one, he genuinely made a play at the ball with his left hand.
Yeah, I thought this series had done a good job of staying away from that stuff. I mentioned the SGA shot to Nembhard's head on the first possession of game 3 and didn't even get reviewed. I just hope we say, okay, those two balanced out in game 4. We're leaving it alone the rest of the series, unless there's just something crazy. If there's something crazy, then sure, let's review it, whatever. But please don't let this turn into an every game thing now.
But here's what I will say, I thought the Pacers came out in the first 3 quarters, and for the entire season, Oklahoma City has been the biggest bully in the yard.
Yeah.
In the NBA season, right? They have been the biggest bullies in the NBA, and I thought Indiana took it to them for the first 3 quarters tonight. I thought that they were super physical. I thought that they were aggressive in all of the best ways. And again, that's where I'm okay, the officiating was fine to me. They let these dudes play for the most part, outside of some of those weird flagrant calls and everything like that. I'd rather see these guys play and really be allowed to be physical. And I thought both teams were allowed to be quite physical tonight. But for Indiana to be able to play that kind of style And they were great on defense in game 3. And we talked about that extensively, I thought, after the game. But they like kind of pushed them around. Like that was a bit wild. Like I thought that they like really were physical and like they were the aggressors in terms of physicality. And it was fun. It was a great game. Like I thoroughly enjoyed somebody try to push around the team that's been pushing other players around
Well,
all season long.
They blew up so many OKC after timeout actions.
Totally.
I mean, they just after timeout action after timeout action. And I mean, we'll get to the kind of unsung heroes and heroes of this game for an OKC team that, quite honestly, Sam, I think they stole game 4, not in the dramatics that Indiana stole game 1, right? Like those aren't comparable in the ways that it happened, but I thought Indiana was the better team tonight. I thought Indiana should have won this game. And a lot of it was because of that, the physicality of their defense. And then on the other side, they're not letting OKC bully them defensively because they're running away from them and OKC can't catch them in a lot of situations. And I put it here where OKC will run the fun designed actions. They have some set actions that are really nice. Like they had one to start the game tonight that I thought was really nice from Dagnall. But when you pressure a team, you can take away a set action after a timeout. Indiana just has all sorts of really fun, like they flow into their offense. Like they have sick concepts. They have the post matchups when they get a mismatch. They have what I call a jet cut. They have their movement, their pace. And I feel like at times OKC is struggling to put their physicality on Indiana because of how they are running that offense.
Oh, like there was Oklahoma City went to zone in the second quarter tonight for like a real stretch there. And I mean, one of the more like, look, this isn't a new set for Indiana. Like they do this stuff all the time.
Are you talking about the double all screen where they
like the X ball screen kind of where TJ just got right into the middle of the lane and took a mid-range jumper, missed it, and then tip out, gets to Shepherd drills a 3. That is such an awesome screen. It's such a set. Like it is beautiful to run that set. Like I think it's so sharp and so fun, and it's really creative in terms of the angles that they're setting the screens more than anything, right? Having come up from like the opposite corner of I guess Shepherd's like wrapping around, and then I forget who the other screener was, comes up and like sets the X screen. Like it's a beautiful set. I love it. But all of that stuff is super creative, and it forces guys like Dort to like get creative getting around screens. Like it's more about, okay, can I turn my hips and like be able to maneuver around this screen, as opposed to I'm just going to blow it up with my physicality. You know what I mean? Which, by the way, because of how stagnant Oklahoma City has been on offense, I think that's what's allowed Nesmith to be so impactful on defense for the most part. He's just been able to use his frame to blow up screens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's been really, really effective so far for him, even though, again, like the guys he's guarding are scoring, but it's J-Dub, who's an all NBA player, and Shea, who's the league MVP this year. Right. So the thing I will say about Oklahoma City in this game, and again, they won, and we're saying like, what is going on here? They go 3 for 17 from 3. They have 10 assists versus 13 turnovers, which I believe you mentioned earlier, in terms of the passing, right? Like they had literally, like, I think that the Pacers had like 1.5 times as many passes as the Thunder tonight. The one interesting thing that I think they did offensively, and now we're just like really jumping around, I guess, but like the thing that they did offensively tonight is they had J-Dub be like the point more consistently as opposed to Shea tonight. And I thought that was a really interesting idea. Letting J-Dub be the one that brings the ball up the court, more consistently than Shea, and then running some more off-ball action for Shea, be it like, he comes up from the corner into a dribble handoff. He comes up through like a middle screen off the ball and then catches at the elbow and then is able to kind of get to where he wants to get to artificially before even dribbling the ball. Right. So like just little things like that, I thought were good, smart adjustments from Dagnall. I still think Rick Carlisle has been unbelievable coaching this basketball team, but like, and honestly, I think he is out coaching Dagnall, but there were some fun adjustments with Shea tonight that I thought helped him get loose and helped him get to 35, even though he had 0 assists. But again, the 0 assists come because the role was different tonight. He was playing more consistently off the ball and was playing less at point.
Yeah, I mean, I think we even saw Caruso bring the ball up in some possessions as well, and what that equated to for even Dub and Caruso was big nights offensively for those guys.
Yep.
What's going to be forgotten in this game would be my guess, because we're about to give Chet a bunch of flowers for his fourth quarter, Caruso for some big plays in the fourth quarter, and then I'm at least going to rave about SGA, because SGA takes a lot of shit because people don't like the way he plays and whatever else. He had 2 absolutely ridiculous, and I always use the term practical athleticism plays in the fourth quarter. The baseline jumper and the reverse pivot, like where he ended up getting fouled, is just sick stuff. J-Dub kept them in this game in the first quarter. Like this game it wasn't going to get out of hand. It's not like they were going to just blow them out, but Indiana came ready to play. And this is the very first note, if OKC weathers this first quarter storm, they're going to win the game. And it almost didn't end up that way, even though they did weather that storm, but they were able to because Dub was so good in the first quarter. I thought he would, more than anybody, I thought he was super aggressive downhill to the rim. He got multiple layups. He had some really nuanced ones. He had a sick one in the fourth quarter where he snaked and then re-snaked and then finished on the left side. But I think he also ended up with 11 free throw attempts, and made all of them. So while he wasn't necessarily the fourth quarter hero that some other guys are or were, I thought he had a major, major impact in this game and had a pretty good all-around game minus some bad turnovers.
Well, and my camera is like a disaster. It keeps shifting. I'm going to have to figure out what's going on there at some point. But, by the way, we're on YouTube. We do these live after every game. Please come join us over on YouTube if you want to have some fun and ask us some questions. We'll probably take questions at the end of this. What I think I do want to talk about most, though, is the defense, because I think that's where the Thunder got back into this in the fourth quarter, right? I thought that Chet and Caruso were monsters. Like Chet, they stopped playing drop. They decided, all right, Chet, this is you. You hurt your ankle earlier in this game. You got banged on the knee by Nesmith trying to get through a screen. We're still going to rely on you to switch out onto Halliburton. We're going to rely on you to switch out, I think, onto Nesmith one time, if I remember correctly. Or not Nesmith, Nembhard. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're going to force you to guard in space. And what makes him so valuable to me, and why I've always liked him, why I've always liked Derek Lively, why I think these guys are just like different caliber prospects than somebody like Haman Maluwatch, right, is the versatility that you can run in ball screens. Like the fact that you can switch him occasionally in ball screens as a counter, the fact that he's not a pure drop big is huge. And by the way, the thing that we've been talking about throughout the course of this series, Oklahoma City did it tonight. They switched the starting lineup. They went back to the Hartenstein-Chet starting lineup. And to me, it isn't just about what happened in the minutes when those two guys are on the court. It's about the way that it evens out their rotations throughout the game, I think. It makes it that easy. It makes it a little bit easier, I think, to get the lineups they want in the moments that they want in the game. So, I thought that Caruso, again, like we barely mentioned Caruso here. I mean, you've talked about him a little bit, but like 7 of 9 from the field for 20 points. Caruso was a monster on defense in the fourth quarter. He was everywhere. Shea and Dort had that huge play where they blew up that action at the top for a pick six. I thought Dort was quite good on defense in the fourth quarter too. But to me, it was Caruso like scrambling everywhere and just being somehow everywhere all at once. And I thought that Chet was huge in switches and then was also scrambling everywhere. It was a massive, massive, massive fourth quarter from that duo.
Yeah, I think it started at the top of the fourth quarter as well, where I think they were down 7, something like that. I think the third quarter ended with, again, a J-Dub mid-range jumper, speaking to kind of his impact in this. But the fourth quarter started off with an awful possession from OKC. Indiana pressured them on an ATO, or I guess start a quarter, whatever, same idea. and Caruso bails them out with a mid-range jumper. A few possessions later, Chet makes 2 free throws, and then Chet had back-to-back possessions with big-time offensive rebounds and putbacks that just really bailed them out. And then that was followed up, or I think it was sandwiched with a Caruso big-time defensive rebound, where defensive rebounding was an issue for OKC in the fourth quarter. I don't know how many fouls the Pacers drew on offensive rebound opportunities. And then Caruso had a baseline cut, got to the free throw line. But you brought up the end of the game, and it was just defensive play after defensive play. Chet with a great rotation contest on a Nembhard drive that hits like the top of the backboard. And then Dort and SGA blow up that play that you're talking about. That was after a timeout. So Indiana had a chance to draw something up after timeout, and Dort and SGA just completely take it away. And then back to back defensive possessions of Chet switching out onto either Halliburton or Nembhard. 2 of them forcing pull-up jumpers that were missed. And the third one, I think Hallie ended up just passing it out, and Turner had to take some sort of three-pointer that he missed. So just huge fourth quarter minutes, especially on the defensive end from those guys.
Yeah, completely agree. Like, just absolutely massive moments, it felt like to me. Yeah, I mean, like, it's hard. Like, this series just keeps going back and forth. And I think that more than anything, what I care about is just an amazing series. It just continues to be this like incredible series. It's a gift that keeps on giving every single time that we watch it. I don't think they win this game without Caruso. I don't think they win it without Chet. I thought it was interesting to limit the Kaysen minutes in a big way tonight. I think that was probably the right call.
Sam,
honestly,
he was not good.
No,
I don't mean to be too sour on the Thunder. I bet 5 times tonight I said, what the F was that? Or what the F are you doing? With either shot attempts or decision. It wasn't just Kaysen. Like, we've talked about Isaiah Joe, and I love Isaiah Joe. And it happened again tonight, though. He came into the game, he gave up 6 points and 2 fouls like that. And then he didn't hit shots, so the minutes were even worse. It's funny. Again, single game plus minus. He was +2. I don't trust that. I don't think Aaron Wiggins has been great in his last 2. Kenrick Williams like gave him a little bit.
I thought he was pretty good tonight.
Yeah. Like I think maybe it's Caruso and Williams. Like, if Dagnall's going to do something, I think you obviously just stay with the starting lineup now, right? Like, you won this game. You're not going to switch it now. Stay with the starting lineup. And then I would probably go 8 in game 5, I guess, with Caruso, Wallace, and Kenrich, and just see. I don't have a lot of faith in Joe and Wiggins right now. And I'll be honest, Sam, I'm losing faith in Kaysen Wallace in this series. And I love Kaysen, but they destroy him every time he gets switched onto Siakam or Turner or even Toppin.
Or Halliburton. The one that they really attack is Halliburton, I feel like, at the end of the first. Look, I'm probably trying, I'm not playing Joe in the next game. Like, I am probably trying Wiggins, because we've seen if Wiggins gets hot, like, he's just a huge difference maker for them. Sure. He's the Mathurin. He's not quite as good as Ben, but like, he's the Mathurin of Oklahoma City on some level, where if he has it going on offense, like, he's a super valuable piece off the bench for a team that does really need some bench scoring, right? Like, Caruso is not going to drop 20 every night, right?
Yep.
So
give him the 5 minutes, see if he can score 8 points. If he does, then you give him another 5 minutes and see what happens. That's probably fair.
Kind of going into the other side now with Indiana, again, just like a huge bench game from Obi Toppin. You know, him making those 2 threes, I think in the third, just absolutely massive shots to get them back rolling. I thought that Siakam was huge for them, especially in the first half. I thought his overall like 2-way play in this game was enormous. The way that he's cutting off angles, the way he's cutting off drives, like, his help defense is everywhere for them. Halliburton was like up and down for me. The turnovers like are pretty real in the series. Like, he's turning the ball over way more than what he typically does in a game, right? That's kind of his whole MO, is the assist to turnover ratio and the ability to get efficient offense.
Over 4.
They forced, they forced 5 tonight. He was really good. They were really good against him. He had some big moments though. Like, he had those 2 drives. I think it was in the third or second, I can't remember. I think it was the end of the second where they, really pushed it back out after that 7-0 run by the Thunder, and they ended up taking the lead going into halftime. Nembhard was tremendous again on defense, but again, this is a bad Mathurin game, and it was a particularly bad Mathurin close of the game where he commits 2 off-ball, prior to inbounds fouls, and that's just a shot, and OKC continues to have the ball, and he misses the free throws as well. Like, we've gotten real like trick or treat Ben Mathurin throughout the course of this series. Sometimes he's great, sometimes it's a problem.
Well, and to that, the only reason he was in the game though was because of something else I want to talk to you about. I felt like Dagnall / SGA made the decision that I don't want to deal with Andrew Nembhard anymore. Even just give me Aaron Nesmith. I feel like in the final 4 minutes, they went at Nesmith at the elbow with switches. And then he drew at least 2 fouls in those scenarios. But the reason Mathurin was on the bench was because Nesmith fouled out. And so I'm just wondering, I think Nesmith is a really good defender. But as we know, some of these guys, like certain matchups, certain players, body types, whatever, are better or worse. I wonder if we see OKC go to that earlier in game 5, even if it's just to get Nesmith in foul trouble, right? Like maybe it's a thing where they just think he gets a little more handsy, a little more jumpy, a little bit more out of position where SGA can draw fouls on him. And then they get into that Pacers bench a little bit quicker or something. So it's just, I feel like they tapped into it at the end of the game here. It worked. It was effective. And I'm interested to see if they go to it early in game 5.
Yeah, I mean, really, like the end of the game, like a real key might have been Nesmith fouling out.
Yeah,
and like they had to have Mathurin in there. It's interesting. It's really interesting to try and figure it out. Like their bench unit, by and large, really got hit in this game.
Yeah.
They lost a lot of those minutes with the bench unit. How did you think the 2 big unit played for Oklahoma City?
I thought it was fine. Like I didn't think it was groundbreaking. Yeah. I think offensively, I like it. I actually find myself at times with the Thunder going, man, I wish they had somebody in the dunker that could like dunk it here. You know what I mean? Like I find myself wanting that, and like, okay, Hart to Chet or Chet to Hart or whatever. I don't think it's hurting them in defensive transition at all, Sam. I am a little bit worried about like their ability to scramble and chase Indiana around in the half court with both of those guys out there. But I don't know that I thought their ball screen coverage was not great for most of the game. It seemed like they weren't navigating screens, or they were getting confused on whether they wanted to switch or not. And like, to your point, their best stretch of basketball was when in the fourth quarter, specifically late in the fourth quarter. And what did they do? They just decided they would switch, right? And so I felt like it looked worse than maybe what it needed to, because Indiana really had the ball moving and popping and flowing, especially in that first quarter. So here's what I do believe, or don't believe. I do believe that Dagnall doesn't believe in it. I felt like he subbed out of it very quickly in the second half.
Yeah.
And we barely saw it outside the start of each half. So I'm not sure how much he trusts it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I actually really agree with that too. I don't think he really trusts it in this series. We're 2-2 now. And I think it's just like right based on what we've seen. Like it just feels right, because the Thunder, like, probably for all intents and purposes, probably should have won game 1, right?
Yep.
And I mean, if you look at this box score, like, look, Indiana didn't shoot it like wildly well tonight, but again, like the Thunder went 3 for 17 from 3. They turned the ball over 13 times versus 10 assists. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say a particular number of their guys played like wildly well. Maybe like 4 played like pretty well tonight. It feels right. It feels like the Thunder went in and kind of stole one that maybe they shouldn't have gotten in this one. And Indiana kind of went and stole one in Oklahoma City. And it feels like this is where this thing is meant to be. And this is a wildly competitive series. Indiana has been great so far. I love this basketball. This is great basketball. Is like, it's just awesome. I don't know that I don't have like wild takes on this so far. Like we've talked a lot about like, okay, they're sending help at different angles against Shea. And to be honest with you, like I think Shea has really struggled in situation where he's gotten doubled. He has no idea, it feels like, where he needs to pass the ball
Yeah.
right now when he gets doubled. I would probably aggressively go more toward that if I was Indiana. I think make Oklahoma City make shots, because at the end of the day, like if Oklahoma City drills 15 threes in a game, you're probably losing anyway, right? Make them be shooters. Like I think is probably the way to do it. Don't give them open shots, rotate around, scramble around, make sure that you get a contest. But like if I'm them, I'm doubling Shea, whenever he gets into the areas that they're getting. I'm probably doing it even like a little bit more aggressively once he gets to that like foul line extended area, that 15 feet and in area. And, kind of going from there and seeing if that can kind of shut down the defense. Would you do anything to Jalen on his? I think that's like my next question is, do you start sending strategic doubles more consistently toward J-Dub?
That one's more interesting, right? Because I agree with you. I thought SGA's kind of process decision making was a little off tonight. Like he looked slow to make
the last two games. I think honestly,
I equate it to or contribute it to just like the physicality. I don't think we always give the fit like what Nimhard is doing to him, and then by extension, Neesmith when he's on him, Shepard, Matherin's played a few possessions here and there. Is like that wears on you, Sam. Like it really does. You just always having somebody there, having to work for everything you get. It can wear on you emotionally and mentally in terms of how quickly you're processing and seeing things. The J-Dub one is interesting. So he's shooting 21% from three in this series. Now he lit it up last series, the series before, like that was the only series where he shot it well. I'd have to look at for the entire playoffs here to see what his, 31%. Do you give him just a step, maybe like play off of him just a little bit? Cause I feel I need to go back and watch the downhill drives and see how he got them. Like what actions were getting him downhill. Cause I feel like it was very successful.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of them are higher ball screens where he's snaking particularly.
So do you start going under the ball screens like what Minnesota did to SGA and last? Like, do you just, you know what, J-Dub, if you're going to step behind a ball screen and knock it down off the dribble, we'll give you that. But we're not going to let you get to the free throw line 11 times, get to the rim 4 or 5 times, and even get to your mid-range jumper where he's usually very comfortable. Like, is that the play for the next 3 games?
I think that's what I'd do. Like, I don't know about the next 3 games, but I would do it in game 5.
Sure.
I might go under and make him a shooter. Like,
You're
see
right.
if he's
there's definitely
willing to knock down shots.
Yeah, he was good with the snake tonight. You're absolutely right about a couple of them at least.
Huh. So if I'm them, like, I think that might be an adjust. Like, really just sell out and try to make this team like shooters. Like they just haven't shot well in the series. And if there is one flaw with this Oklahoma City team where you're like really pointing it out, right? There are a few, like I would argue that like they don't pass the ball particularly well for a like truly elite team, right? Like I would say it's probably the shooting because Holmgren is hit or miss. There are times where Chet can really shoot it. If you get a late closeout because of how long it takes him and how elongated his release is, I think that you're probably okay there. J-Dub goes 0 for 3 tonight. Like you said, 21% in the series so far. It's not like Hartenstein's a shooter. Dort is probably
Chet's at 31% for the playoffs and is at 8% in the series. Has made 1 3.
Yeah, like Dort is probably a guy that I want to, close out on in a real way because when he starts rolling, like it just feels like an avalanche. He's like very much like a streaky, if it's going guy. And you just don't want that to be at risk. Kaysen can't shoot right now. Caruso is probably one that you want to guard. If Isaiah Joe's out there, you're probably winning on defense, right? With him on defense. And Wiggins is a guy that I think you do want to guard because if he gets hot, like it's a avalanche, right? So yeah, I think I'm like kind of saying, let's go on ahead and do this and let's make them shooters even more aggressively than we are right now.
especially with the big three, right? Like, I mean, the ones we're kind of calling out, I'm not saying like calling out like that, but if I assume tonight's game is not in these numbers, but Shea, Dub, and Chet are all right at 30 to 31% from three on 4 to 5 attempts per game for the entire playoffs. The ones you called out, Dort is having a insanely hot series. You probably don't want to leave him open right now. Caruso's been incredible all playoffs. Wiggins, pretty good number. Joe, like I would make Cason Wallace make one before I close out hard to him again in this series. And listen, people know we love Cason Wallace. Like, we give Cason Wallace his due credit all the time, but it did not look particularly great tonight. So I would lean into that if I was the Pacers just a little bit, and specifically with Dub, because Jalen Williams has done a nice job, and tonight getting downhill again. I thought he was huge for them in the first quarter, especially, and then some stuff here and there. But he is averaging 22 a game in this series, and that was back-to-back 25 plus 26 and 27. So maybe some small adjustment necessary to try with him for Game 5 for Indiana.
The other thing that I thought was quite effective for Shea was, instead of waiting for the screen and like going around the screen, I thought they were really effective when Shea rejected screens tonight and just decided, all right, I'm just going to go. If you're going to overplay me from trying to get to the middle, I'm just going to go try and drive, get to my spot, or go get to the elbow. And as you're recovering, stop, step back, hit a jumper. I thought those were the rejects tonight were really effective for Shea too.
Yeah, I liked him just running that ball screen stuff because he can either reject it, or I think the Pacers bigs, I know they got a turnover off one of them, but I think they're susceptible to, we talked about J-Dub snaking them. SGA can split those. Like, I just think attacking those ball screen situations for both of those guys is really, really interesting. So I assume we continue to see quite a bit of ball screen action out of that. For Indiana, like, you got to get Turner going. You got to get more out of him somewhere. I thought he came out with good energy to start the game, but he ended up 0 of 6 from the 3-point line. I mean, thank goodness for them that Toppin had the game he had.
Well, the interesting thing on how they got Turner going to me was they played like Oklahoma City with the two big lineup, played a lot more at the level, I felt like, of the screen tonight. Or like at times, like even like they blitzed Halliburton a couple of times with like the big, and he just hit the short roll. Like the short roll in the first quarter between Toppin and
what were your
Hart
thoughts on
was huge.
Daigneault going to that? Because I don't like that. Like, putting two
I don't
on
like it either.
Halliburton makes no sense to me. Putting 2 on Anthony Edwards makes sense, right? Be a decision maker. And
Correct.
we said it with SGA there, and SGA may prove, like, maybe he'll hit 12 assists in Game 5 if they do that to him. We know what Halliburton will do if you put 2 on him. I thought that was a very interesting coaching decision from Daigneault to start the game that quickly did not work, and thankfully he quickly stopped trying to do it.
Yeah, I did not understand coming out and doing that. I thought it was super weird. I guess like come out and just give it a look. You know what I mean? Like, make them like think a different way, maybe. I don't know, but it didn't logically, it didn't make much sense to me, maybe is the way to put it. But there were, surprising the opponent is also a valuable thing. You know what I mean? Like, if you can catch them by surprise because they're not expecting something, sometimes that works. Okay, look, I mean, we had Oklahoma City winning the series coming into tonight. I think we're still probably there. I mean, it's so weird because like they stole this. Like, I think they didn't play super well tonight, and they stole the game. Right? Like, part of me in my head is almost like, I don't know. Like, I think this is tighter, maybe even than what I thought. Right? Like, it's
no, for sure.
I don't know how much this changed my thought process.
I mean, Sam, I was ready to come on, call Pacers in 6, and say, this is why you can't lose Game 1 the way you lose Game 1. And like, we're getting the Knicks series all over again, right? Where you blow a Game 1 and it comes back to haunt you, because it's like, okay, well, if OKC loses tonight, well, if they would have lost Game 1 the way they did, we'd be 2-2 going back to OKC. Everybody feel good about it. That was my mindset, midway through the fourth quarter, whenever it was, like, because I just thought Indiana was going to win the game. Shoot, I was trying to decide, am I going to pick Pacers in 5 or 6? Like, they kind of have the mentality, they'll just go to OKC and close this thing out, like, enjoy winning it on the road. And then, like I said, we mentioned Caruso, Chet. I do want to mention, Shea hit a catch and shoot 3. They make 3 threes all game long.
Yeah.
One is a huge one from him. The baseline jumper that he made where he's like off balance, like is sick.
Yeah.
And then again, the ability to reverse pivot and get on, the practical athleticism is unbelievable. So I'm Thunder in 7. I don't think, even at 2-2, even where I don't feel great about how they won tonight in terms of the 48 minutes of game, I picked them all year, and I'm not going to change now where they still have home court advantage. I think they can win 2 at home. But I have learned to not discount this Pacers team. Like, absolutely, this team is not going to back down. I expect them to respond. I wish I could get tickets or something. Driving down to OKC would probably be worth it on Monday, because that is going to be insane. These next 3 games are going to be, I hope we get 3 games. And if we do, they're all going to be incredible atmospheres.
Yeah. And we probably haven't talked enough about Shea to close the game,
Yeah.
right? Drills that 3, goes and hits that mid-range jumper, gets the 2 big free throws there as well. I think he might have had 9 straight points for them to finish it, if memory serves, because he had he made the 3, then the mid-range jumper, then the 2 free throws on the drive, and then he, I think, made the 2 Mathurin like loose ball, off ball free throws, right?
Yes.
Is there anything in the middle of that, maybe?
Well, he had 2 free throws before the 3 also. Did you get those?
No, I didn't actually.
So they out of timeout, they went to the action. This was the final 4 minutes. They come out of an after timeout action, and that's where they started hunting Naismith. And the first possession at the elbow, he draws a foul, gets to the free throw line. Then they came back, and he got the 3 that started the sequence that you were talking about.
Yeah, so he had 13 of their final 14, I believe is the number. 13 of their final 14 points, only broken up by a Lou Dort free throw.
He helped create the turnover with Lou Dort to get him to the free throw line.
That's right.
Transition.
Yeah. I mean, unbelievable from Shea at the end of that game. He look, we've been talking about the fact that like he's going to have to make a big shot. He's going to have to make big shots. He's going to have to do something. Like, we just haven't seen, we've seen it like a couple of times in the playoffs, but like maybe not quite as much as what he's, because they blow out teams when they win a lot of the time, right?
Sure.
And a lot of the losses are close, and it hasn't been super sweet, right? But tonight he like stepped up in the biggest way imaginable, and basically brought this thing back to a 2-2 lead or 2-2 tied series, going back to Oklahoma City, where they're absolutely elite at home.
I mean, we talked about it after game 3. We gave all the net ratings and the clutch stats and all of that stuff, and how much better Indiana has been than the Thunder. And that's a huge win. Like, that's a huge monkey off your, whatever you want to say, whatever cliche you want to use. It's not just being 2-2 and winning a game. OKC has to take a lot of confidence that they finally got over that hump. It would have been one thing to go in there and blow them out, but to be kind of outplayed all game long and then find a way to win in the fourth quarter and close it out in clutch time. One thing I will say, they better find a new sideline out of bounds play, because if they don't, they're going to lose one of these 3 games in that situation, because if Mathurin doesn't bail them out, they're not getting open. I know it's a very nuanced thing. I did not like the sideline out of bounds play they were running to try to get Shea the ball. They were essentially running right into where Halliburton was standing guarding the out of bounds guy. So anyway, little small thing, but they get late in the game again. Watch the sidelines out of bounds action to get open. See if Dagnall comes up with something different over the next couple days.
Yep. Okay. We'll answer some questions here. We've got a couple things to talk about as well. But before we do so, we got to shout out our friends over at MANSCAPED. Father's Day is just around the corner, which means that Sunday of the US Open is just around the corner, folks. And Oakmont is an angry golf course. I don't know if you guys are aware of that right now. We'll talk about that maybe as soon as we finish this read, Bryce. But Father's Day is just around the corner. And let's be honest, Dad does not need another coffee mug or pair of socks. It's time to give him something he will actually use. Meet the Chairman Pro from Manscaped. the perfect Father's Day gift for the dad who deserves to look and feel his best. This isn't just any razor. The Chairman Pro is a high-tech, dad-approved grooming upgrade. It's an electric face shaver that can tackle up to 5 days of growth and features 2 interchangeable blade heads. Whether he's cleaning up for golf, dinner, or just another nap on the recliner, make sure he does it with style. The Chairman Pro is perfect for the dad who taught you how to shave and now needs a reminder how it's really done. Do you know what makes Manscaped so great? They have those 2 interchangeable skin safe blade heads. The skin safe 4-blade foil is for that super close shave, and the skin safe stubble trimmer is for that sophisticated 5 o'clock shadow look. Both are designed to help reduce razor burn and irritation, so skin feels smooth and comfortable after every shave. It's also waterproof, so it can be used in the shower or rinsed under the sink after every use, making cleanup a breeze. Most importantly, though, it comes with a 2-year warranty on all powered devices, giving you peace of mind with every use. Get your dad a Father's Day gift he'll actually use and get the Chairman Pro for 15% off with code GAMETHEORY at manscaped.com. Let's try and spell this right this time. MANSCAPED.com. That's 15% off your entire order with code GAMETHEORY, GAMETHEORY, over at manscaped.com. Or if you need it today, you can find Manscaped at a store near you. Bryce, are you going to at least like do the dad thing on Father's Day and sit down and watch the US Open at some point?
No.
Come on.
Ranny said she's going to be watching the US Open, so it'll be on the background of
See?
whatever basketball I'm watching on my computer.
Unfortunately, the picks did not go well this week for me, Bryce. Look, we won't talk about Tommy Fleetwood. Maybe not doing super hot here. Oakmont, if you want to see golfers, like professional golfers, really struggle, really like have some problems. Yeah, there are currently 3 players under par going into the weekend, and
Gross.
That's with Thursday being about as easy of a day to score at Oakmont as like exists at that course. It's just like it's a Pittsburgh course that's just like absolutely miserable if it gets windy or like wet or like gross in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, it's an absolute beauty of a golf course that I am excited to watch this weekend at least.
Sam, you want to guess how many 20-point games Alex Caruso had in the regular season this year?
Oh, it had to be like 1 or 0.
0. I was just going through. He had like 3 in the first 5 years of his career, and he now has 2 20-point games in the NBA Finals, not the playoffs. In these NBA Finals. Amazing, legendary stuff from Alex Caruso.
This is a good trivia question that I'm on Slam and Jam this weekend with The Athletic. We've recorded already. And one of the questions I'll ask you was, Alex asked, there are 3 players who have won titles with 2 different teams over the last 7 years where no one's gone like, it's been 7 different teams that have won in these 7 years, right? Yeah. Who are the 3 players that have won titles with 2 separate teams? Because on either side, there will be somebody that does it. Either Siakam and Thomas Bryant do it this year. Siakam with Toronto, Bryant with Denver, if memory serves. Or it'll be Caruso that wins. So trivia time. Over the last 7 years, who are the 3 players that have won titles with 2 separate teams?
7 year. KCP?
Yep, that's one. That was my first guess. So
Nuggets and Lakers.
Mm-hmm. One was last year, and then one is retired.
So one was last year. Drew Holiday.
Number 2. Yep. I forgot Drew. My brain just totally broke on Slam and Jam.
I hate playing that game. I love those guys, and I'm so honored when they ask me to come on. And then I have fun for 60 minutes, and then as soon as we start the trivia, I start sweating. I only lost by a point last time, and it was I was so dumb. I made a dumb mistake.
The one that Andrew and I did, it took, I think, 35 minutes this time. And it's a good one. I would suggest people listen. I'm sure they edited it down, and it's not actually going to take 35 minutes, but yeah.
All right, retired.
Yeah.
I'm cheating now. Jeff Green? Is he on 2?
Right last name, wrong human.
What other Green am I missing?
Danny Green is the other one.
Oh.
It's the one with the Lakers and the Raptors.
Oh, back to back. Good for
Back
Danny
to back.
Green.
That's right. Shout out Danny Green at the start of this thing. Okay. We're going to answer some questions at the end, but first, before we do that, I do at least want to talk a little bit about the Kevin Durant thing, because it feels like that's starting to come to a head now. Shams has mentioned a bunch of teams at this point. I mean, look, I've been on like I told you before we got on this, like I've been on the phone now for quite a bit of time today, trying to figure this out. Not the KD thing specifically, but a few different things between the draft and people will bring up KD and everything. So like the read is that Shams mentioned Houston, San Antonio, Miami, Minnesota, New York. Any of those teams like really stand out to you? Like New York, I think just like has no way to really do it effectively. So like I don't think it'll be New York.
Houston, Miami, San Antonio, Minnesota.
Yeah.
So we did the Miami conversation in that offseason preview, and kind of broke that down, which you didn't like purposely talk me into it, but I saw it more as we talked through it. And we kind of went through like with where, without where. What's the Minnesota package? There's a sign-in, like Julius opts in. What's
it would be? I mean, it doesn't have to be that. The other option is Gobert. Like you could do Gobert and Dante, and the money gets pretty close.
So Minnesota starts Nas at the 5 or Julius at the
look, I don't know what they would do at the 5. Maybe person not on the team yet would be the 5.
Huh. I hadn't thought about San Antonio as much, but so the idea
I'm not.
Like,
I know people are bringing this up. Like since Simmons brought it up on his show, and I love Bill. Bill's, obviously like I'm close with Ryan Russillo. I talked to him yesterday. Like absolutely no shots at those guys at the Ringer. I adore them. Like they're great people. I was surprised that Bill kind of said like he wouldn't be surprised if San Antonio has a deal done for KD. I haven't gotten that impression, I think is what I would say.
And we think that does that include Steph?
I can't imagine it would. No.
So it's like Vassell and Keldon.
Yeah, it'd be like Vassell, Keldon. Yeah, maybe Sohan, like
whatever gets them
probably 14. Yeah. So let's rank and file these 3 offers. Let's maybe do this, right?
Okay. Sure.
So the Heat offer would have to be something like Wiggins. I mean, I think so. Here's the thing. Like, I don't know if Khalil Ware is going to be in this deal or not. I kind of think that for Miami to win, like, might have to be in the deal, frankly. But it'd have to be like Wiggins, Jovic. I'm trying to think like how close is the money there. I think it'd have to be Duncan then, if I remember correctly, to get the money close. So yeah, like Wiggins, Duncan, Jovic, and 2 firsts. Let's call it
Okay.
for Miami. For Minnesota, let's call it Gobert, Dante. I mean it 17, 31, and Terrence Shannon. Or maybe even just 17 and 31. And because like they don't have any future firsts that they can move if memory serves. Like it still might have to be an extra guy. Maybe it's Leonard Miller instead of Shannon, right? Like maybe it's something like that. Well, that deal doesn't work. Why doesn't that deal work? Oh, because I don't have KD in the deal. That's why.
Got to trade somebody back.
Got to trade somebody back. That's right. So yeah, let's say Gobert, Dante, Leonard Miller, 17 and 31 or something like that, right?
Okay.
And then from San Antonio, it'd be like Vassell, one of Keldon or Barnes, Sohan, and 14. Or from Houston, it can be like Jalen Green, Jock Londale, Aaron Holiday, number 10. And then like maybe a first, maybe not.
My gut reaction is between the Minnesota. If I'm Phoenix and what I think they would want to do, it would be between like the Minnesota one would probably be interesting to them, right? Like putting Gobert in there with Booker and continuing to like, don't we think they probably want to try to win now? They're not going to win now, but like, I feel like that would be enticing to them.
I think it probably would be too, personally. I'm trying to figure out how you make the Minnesota money work. I think you probably have to involve a third team of some sort, taking back like a little bit of stuff from Minnesota. I don't know that I want to like dig into the details like fully on that, but like it'd be something like Gobert, Dante, and like 17 and something, right? Maybe TSJ, maybe something else. Like maybe it's 31 is enough. I don't know. I would be surprised. I think I'm like, look, people yelled at us when we didn't talk about the Spurs all that much whenever we did the Suns offseason preview. I'm like somewhat skeptical. Oh God. Excuse me. Apologies about that.
Bless you.
I'm like somewhat skeptical that the Spurs do this, to be honest. And look, like John Gambadaro is very connected there. And John went on the radio a couple days ago and talked about like a potential Spurs offer. But then like today he tweeted something like, or maybe it was yesterday, I don't know. The vast majority of the stuff you were reading on KD trades are not even close. This is the time of year when rumors and speculation and some bad reporting go wild. Nothing moving on KD yet. It will happen, but it's not close. That's also like my impression is like not this weekend. But like probably before the draft is what it seems like to me. And then the Houston offer would be, like I said, Jalen Green, Jock Londale, Aaron Holiday, and number 10. Like I don't think they're going to give up a crazy amount to this thing. Do you have any strong opinions on ranking and filing those offers?
Yeah, I mean, my thing is just like trying to hash out what's going to be the most enticing to Phoenix, because you're keeping Devin Booker, and like you can't like I don't think you can go young guys and picks as the focal point of the deal, would be my guess, if you want to try to keep him and keep him happy. We talked about this on the Phoenix one in terms of like, like, okay, is Booker the next one to go like, this is completely a disaster and I don't want to play here anymore either. And so because of that, I would guess they're looking for the best pieces of like, hey, over the next few years, this is going to give us the best chance to win as many games as possible. And so, like, I like Devin Vassell. I like Khalil Ware if he was in the deal from Miami, but adding a piece like Gobert at the center position where they don't have anybody that
Right.
like is great. And then somebody off the like Dante and Grayson and all like Bradley, like all of that gets a little bit redundant, but I know this is easier said than done. Then maybe you move one of those, like we already talked about, maybe moving Grayson, right? Like maybe you move off him and get something else. I don't know. It seems like those are the best of the things we hashed out. That's the best, like kind of fits into place and helps you win now. As opposed like Jalen Green, like another team takes an upside swing on Jalen Green, sure, but I don't think Phoenix is in play to do that, especially at that position. Like if it was Jabari and Tari and something like that, like now I would be interested, right? Because those guys positionally make more sense and like play both ends of the floor and all of that. So that would get a little bit more interesting. So I just think whoever offers the best version of that, like guys that are going to help Booker be successful and win some games over the next 3 years would win, is my opinion. Maybe Phoenix doesn't take that approach, but that's what I would guess they do.
Here be my other question here. How much better is Minnesota with Kevin Durant as opposed to Gobert and Dante?
I mean, it completely changes your defensive identity to some extent, right? I mean,
it changed your entire identity as a team, I feel like.
Well, offensively as well. Yeah. I mean, because Ant wants to have the ball in his hands, it seems like to me. So,
this is another option, by the way, from Houston. Jalen Green, Brooks, and number 10 is another option that works financially, by the way.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that's the wrong value. Like I just don't think that's the type. I would be interested if that's the type of deal Phoenix wants, like adding another backcourt guy like Jalen Green to Devin Booker. And, you know, again, you still have Bradley Beal there and he's probably going to be there for one more year. So anyway, Minnesota's thing is interesting. Yeah. Cause like what's your starting lineup?
I think that it would be at that point, you know, one of Dillingham or Conley, right? Like what, you know, you're hoping that Dillingham takes the jump, right?
Real quick, Sam, losing Gobert makes him even more of an issue on that end of the
totally
floor.
Couldn't agree more. Ant, KD, Jaden McDaniels, and then Julius. Like, are you starting Julius at the 5? Are you then like trying to, is like, are you trying to move Julius like in a deal where you get a big? Like, what's your plan there then?
This is where I struggle at times with some moves like this because it's like, it's the first domino and there needs to be another domino. You know, I mean,
yeah,
we talked about this with the Luka Doncic trade. You know, like obviously we both agreed with it from the Lakers perspective, but we said like for this to really be a competitive team at the highest level, there probably needs to be the next move and the next move. And so, I mean, obviously Minnesota would have the whole offseason to figure that move out or those moves out, but your entire identity is just different, as you said. Like it's just very, very different. Because your 5 best players are Ant, McDaniels, KD, Julius, and Nas. But that doesn't seem like a realistic starting 5 or really even like you're probably gonna play some minutes with that group. I had not considered them as much as a KD team.
Do you need a center before you do that move? Like, do you need a plan lined up? It's like, all right, we're moving Julius for a big before you make that deal. But like, that's just not how this works sometimes. Like if Miami goes to Phoenix and says like, hey, look, like we are willing to give you Khalil Ware, right? You know, I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just saying like, you know, as an example. And Phoenix goes back to Minnesota and it's like, hey, look, we've got this thing on the docket. Like we can't wait for you anymore. Like we can't wait for you to go find your plan at center. Do you do it if you don't have the plan at center yet if you're Minnesota.
Surely they would have a vibe for what Julius could get you on the market. But it is kind of scary because I'd assume teams have gotten themselves into this position before where they thought they could go get a guy and then they ended up without one. Yeah, I don't. It's obviously a very talented group. I need to wrap my head around how much I believe in it winning at the highest level, right? Like that's obviously a playoff team, a team that's going to win a lot of games if healthy, all of that. It's like, is that a team I'm just like, oh, that's the title contending team. It is tough because it just changes so much for them. And it really, here's another factor. I mean, we love Jalen Clark. It's like it does hurt your depth as well because if you lose Na in free agency and you trade Dante in this deal, now all of a sudden you're really counting on Rob. You're really counting on Jalen Clark.
And by the way, trading 2 for 1 or 3 for 1 makes your finances even harder at that point because you've put $54 million into one player with KD.
Yeah. So that's another factor as well. With an aging Mike Conley, whose minutes need to go down, not up. And, you know, what Durant, even Durant at his age, like it's Kevin freaking Durant. So I understand it, but I don't think
that's the thing.
It's not as cut and dry as what it would sound like whenever you're talking KD.
But I think if I'm Phoenix, that's probably the deal I would do for what it's worth. Not only because I think that it's a deal that makes sense, like for them in terms of what they want to do, right or wrong, whatever you want to think of that, right? I actually think that that's probably the most value in a deal if that was to happen. It's just the easiest way to make the deal work is if it's Gobert versus Randall opting in or whatever. Like it's just the easiest way to make the money work. But if you can do it with Randall opting in, like that'd be amazing. Like that, if Randall opts in to go to Phoenix, great. It's just like, why does Julius do that at the end of the day is the thing. Like it's kind of up to him. So to me, if you're going to do this, it probably does have to be Randall or it probably does have to be Gobert. Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one to me. I probably don't do it if I'm Minnesota, unless I have like a guaranteed answer at center that I know what it is and like I feel really good about it. And maybe they would. And I'm like, you know, that's where if it happens, we'll talk about it a little bit more substantially. But yeah, it's an interesting one to me. It's a really, really interesting spot to me.
Yeah.
Okay. I think if I was ranking those offers, though, I would have, if I was Phoenix, if Minnesota's really offering Gobert, Dante, and 17, that would be the deal I would do. If, you know, the Spurs are offering what they're off, you know, something like Sohan and 14 would be the value proposition there. I'd probably do that. I don't know if they're offering that. I'm just like kind of spitballing, right? And Vassell you get too. Vassell has a chance to be really valuable. Big contract, but you know, not a bad player. I would say that's probably better than a Houston offer. I just don't think Houston's going to offer like a crazy amount. Like everything we know about Houston is that they like their kids.
So that's what I was going to say is I would really try to leverage, and I think I would lose, but I would try to leverage other offers if Houston was actually interested into trying to get a couple of the young players. Like I like Jabari. We talked about those two guys. I assume you're not going to win that. But I would be, that would be interesting to me if I could do that from Houston. But I think based off what we think Houston would actually put on the table, I don't know, maybe they would, but you know, if it's like Brooks and Green, like I'm just not as interested in that if I'm Phoenix.
Yeah. And by the way, I feel the same about San Antonio. That's why, like, when we did the KD thing, like, I didn't really bring up San Antonio. Like, I don't think San Antonio is going to give up like a crazy amount either. You know what I mean? Like, I think that they are happy with their build in terms of the way that they're going about it. And then, like, Miami, I mean, to me, it really comes down, does Miami offer Khalil Ware or not? like if they don't offer Khalil Ware, I'm just like not all that interested in this.
Yeah.
Like I know they have 2 firsts. Like if they're willing to throw in 2 firsts that are unprotected, maybe. But like 2 firsts in Jovic to me, plus like Wiggins and I think Duncan is how you make the money work. Like it's fine. I'd rather have Ware, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not even like crazy high on Ware. I just think the Ware is value league wide.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah. That's kind of where I'm at on the KD thing. We'll see where it goes. When he gets traded, it feels like it's going to happen. When he gets traded, we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth. Let's answer some questions here before we get through it. Okay. From Al Smooth, if OKC loses this series, would they trade for KD? No, I don't see that. They have money concerns coming up. They're just not gonna. They're not gonna do that. I was
thinking about this tonight when I thought they were gonna go down 3-1, and I could see them wanting to make tweaks to their roster and identify the weaknesses, and they're probably gonna need to do that even if they win the finals, right? Like you always want to continue to do that, but they just made the finals. They made the finals one way or another. I wouldn't make like crazy core changes to my group whenever they're this young and experiencing their first finals. So improvements, sure. We've talked about some of those things, but huge, crazy ones, I don't think that I would be in on that.
Bo Wells says, Sam, which big in the draft is most Thunder-like? What is your answer to this, Bryce? I have an answer, but I'd be curious to hear yours.
Like Sorber is the first name. Danny Wolf, but then like Sorber was the first like name that came, but I don't know that I like that yet. Not common. I mean,
for what it's worth, Sorber and Wolf were the 2 names I had too.
Okay. Because especially Sorber defensively.
That's the thing. Sorber can really pass it. He processes at a high level, very long, good screener. Like defensively, like can move his feet a little bit more than he gets credit for, I think. A little bit undersized, but block shots.
Yeah.
Like he ticks a lot of boxes for them to me. Danny Wolf's just like dribble, pass, shoot big, and it's a perfect kind of big for them, I think.
Yeah.
But I would rank them. I think Sorber would be my guess on the top big. I mean, if we count Colin Murray Boyles in this, like that's also a really interesting name.
Yeah.
But he's like more forward wing-ish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain what happened to Ben Saraff's draft fall? From John Dykstra, was looking into him for the Wolves at 31. I was watching your video earlier where he was discussed in Lotto what changed. Yeah, I think that for me, it's just there wasn't a whole lot of growth as a shooter this year, as much as anything. And that's like he makes shots from the mid range at a really high level. I just don't know if he has like the significant upside I thought if he can't really shoot it.
Yeah, we actually, I guested on a Pistons podcast today, and we actually discussed Saraff in terms of like, what if Trajan loves him and he falls deep into the 20s in Detroit, just as a trade up candidate. We were just discussing players. I don't think he necessarily fits great on the roster, but just as a talented player. And, like I see him more as like a third guard now or a high level fourth guard or something like that. I still am very intrigued with just the talent, his ability to create separation, all of that. It's just the shot making wasn't there. And I think a lot of people have like real defensive concerns with him as well.
Yep. Bryce said it as well as I possibly can. Runner Dude asks, were you surprised with any of the international measurements, especially Hugo, Saraff, and Essengay? I mean, the biggest eye-opener measurement is not any of those guys. It's Jan Berenjay.
Yeah.
So Berenjay measuring at 6'11 in shoes, 6'11 without shoes. Yeah. He has grown 2 inches in the last year, is what that means. Like I kind of talked to some folks and confirmed that. He's grown 2 inches in the last year. And he has a 7'4", 7'5" wingspan now, 9'3" standing reach. that's the guy who got helped most by the measurements here. The fact that he is now like a real starting center sized player, I would be surprised if he got out of the top 15, 16 picks at this point, is where I'm at. We said yesterday, like if Atlanta wants Baron J, or 2 days ago, whenever we recorded last, they probably have to take him at 13. I think that's true at this point. Like teams like, Houston theoretically could be looking for a big. Chicago could theoretically be looking for a defensive big who can run the court really well. Atlanta should be looking for a big at this point, with Onyeka, not necessarily like to replace Onyeka. Certainly Oklahoma City is another team that could look at this. Like there are just a number of teams in that range that would be looking at a big, I think. Certainly if Minnesota keeps 17, and keeps Gobert, like what a perfect player for Baron J to learn under, but we'll see where that goes. I would say Baron J is probably the one that stood out the most. The second guy who stood out the most, I would say, was Hugo, actually.
Yeah, I was just looking at his again, and those are interesting.
So Hugo Gonzalez, 6'6.25" barefoot, 6'10 3/4" wingspan, nearly 8'6" standing reach, enormous hands, and this is the funniest one of it all, 223 pounds.
Oh wow.
He is a fucking hoss. Like what a tank. Both Baron J and Hugo. So the way that we planned the draft guide was, as soon as the international guys make their decision on whether or not to stay in or not, we're going to update the draft guide one last time and get, as soon as we had measurements and everything, just to like confirm that we have it in the place that we wanted it beforehand, or before the draft, making sure that we have all the players we need, everything like that. We will be moving up Baron J a couple of spots, and I'll be moving up Hugo probably like 5 or 6 spots, honestly. Him being that big and that physical and that strong is like a real, like that's a real dude to me, because he is awesome on defense already.
Yeah, no, that was the one, as I was looking through those names, that Baron J obviously, but that's legit size on the wing for Hugo. So yeah.
Yep. Noah Essengay measured today, 6'10" barefoot, 7 3/4" wingspan, 9 1 3/4" standing reach. Also very large hands as well. Only came in at 203 pounds compared to Baron J, who I think was like 235. Is like a somewhat comparable human being there in terms of size. Look, I think that those measurements are basically what teams expected, to be honest. I just don't think they move the needle one way or another. The thing that people looked at with the Basketball Without Borders measurement all year, where they'd be like, oh, like he's this with this wingspan and this standing reach, like those measurements never lined up. Like he was like, I think 6'9" with like a 6'11" wingspan. It had like a 9'3" standing reach at that event. And that just like that doesn't happen with guys. Like that's just not something, that isn't how that works. Right. So I think that people were expecting like something in the range of where he ended up. I just don't like, I'm not saying that like they're bad measurements. I'm not saying they're great measurements. I just think that it's kind of what the expectation was. Like, I don't think he moved the needle one way or another.
Sure. Yeah. Like I saw Hugo's and was like not shocked, but surprised. Like they started looking at Noah's, that would have been close to what, like you said, what I would have thought with him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then Saraf ended up at, what was it here? 6'6" barefoot, 200 pounds, 6'8 3/4" wingspan, 8'4" standing reach. Not massive hands or anything like that. A little taller than what we expected, but about in line with what was anticipated, I would say. Maybe an inch taller and bigger than what was anticipated.
Yeah.
don't think he really moved the needle all that much either in terms of measurements.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Baron J and Essengay are two guys that will likely kind of spike up. Or I'm sorry, Baron J and Hugo are likely a couple of guys that when we update the mock draft here next week, when we get finalized entrants, I will probably slide them up a little bit now that we have measurements.
Sure.
Okay. From Alex Currett, seems like there have been rumors in the past few days about Common Maluwatch. Is he crushing it in workouts? Where do you think the rumors are coming from? Yeah, so this has been the question I've been asking teams for a while now. Because most of the folks I talk to, like, they think Common's a good player, like, could go anywhere from, you know, or could be ranked anywhere. I don't want to bring up specific teams and say could go anywhere. I haven't heard like a team that has like a top 5 grade on him yet, to be honest with you. So we're all trying to figure out where the steam is coming from a little bit. They're out there. Like, it's not false. Like, people, you know, seem to think that he's rising. And that's on the team side too. Like, you know, with, like, I was talking with Bryce earlier, like, you know, I was on the phone for a good portion of this game while it was happening, game 4. And he got brought up like by most of the people I talked to, and has been brought up by most of the people I've talked to, is like somebody like, hey, like, what's going on here? And we've been trying to logically figure out where the landing spot is, but we, you know, maybe like, this is logically like us trying to figure it out. This is not reportable, right? Like, we are speculating here. We are not, you know, do not aggregate this. Like, this is me talking with NBA people who also are speculating and trying to figure it out. Like, you know, New Orleans, maybe, you know, is like Washington a team that could do this? Like, if they think Sarr is a 4 long term, but like they played him at the 5 all year last year. So like, does that track for you? Doesn't really track for me.
No, I mean, maybe, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, like, Utah is Walker Kessler. I think Kessler is just like a better prospect at this point than Common is. Like, San Antonio, the whole reason that San Antonio is, you know, their whole marginal advantage is having Victor at the 5, right? So why would you bring in like a position locked 5 to play with Victor? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. You know, like, Philly doesn't make sense to me. Like, Philly needs to max out this year more than anything. Maybe if they move down.
Yeah.
But like, you know, just kind of running through the top 7 teams, like, you get to 6 and 7 and you're like, there's a world where I can see this. Like, Washington's valued the defensive end in a real way. New Orleans, new front office, right? Like, you know, if they're not Eve Missy people, maybe you could go that way, right? Brooklyn has a ton of centers. Like, why would Brooklyn do this? They have Nick Claxton. They have Day'Ron Sharp as a potential guy they could keep. Like, what? I'm struggling to figure it out in terms of where the steam is. Just logically, like, I'm struggling to figure out where the steam is for him to go higher in the draft.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm the Bulls, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll try and move up for Common. That would be interesting. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, the only team that stands out weirdly is like Charlotte, if they are absolutely out of the Mark Williams business.
Maybe I could see that.
I feel like
But who are you trading Mark to now that he's failed the physical in LA, though?
No, that's what I'm saying though, is like, now, and then whenever you draft Common, you lose any, like, you're going to trade Mark Williams for peanuts because of that.
Yeah.
So
you have to trade him pre-draft if you're doing
yes, you got to have something done now. That's the only one where I'm like, okay, maybe they don't like their big and this could be the guy to replace. Washington, like you brought up, maybe if you want to play him and Sarr together, like, depending on how much you believe in the jumpers and all of that stuff, like, that'd be a whole conversation. Be kind of interesting defensively. New Orleans, like you said, maybe you just draft over Messi. Like the new front office, they did not draft him. Maybe they just think he's awesome, and they either play Messi as the backup or they move on from him because again, they not their guy. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Toronto at 9. Like now we're getting more into the range we're talking about anyway. Like that's kind of the range we discuss him in general. So
yeah, like Toronto makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Houston makes a ton of sense if they're not keeping Steven Adams. Portland probably doesn't make sense, but Chicago makes worlds of sense. Atlanta, like he can't fall past Atlanta, and
Yeah.
we've talked about Atlanta trying to move up for him. Like that's what I would be doing if I was Atlanta. I'd be trying to like go to number 8 and be like, all right, like Brooklyn, like can we do this? Like, is there any chance you'll do number 8? I mean, Brooklyn won't do 8 for 13 and 22, but like, is there something there that Brooklyn likes with Atlanta?
Sure. So like whenever they ask like where are the rumors coming from, maybe they're coming from the Nets. Yeah, I'm literally just like throwing things out. This is probably really stupid of me to do, but people know I don't have sources, so they won't aggregate me. But like the Nets could be trying to build buzz for a team like the Hawks that like, hey, we heard that New Orleans might be interested in Common, or whatever, like trying to get them. Well, that wouldn't even work. It'd be the other way. New Orleans, Washington saying it about New Orleans. Sorry, I did it backwards. Washington, we heard New Orleans might be interested in Common, if Washington was willing to move back or something. So like one of these teams trying to generate some buzz to get somebody to move up. So,
and again, like just talking about Common, the player, right? What is the upside for people?
Well,
like, why would you feel like you have to take him at like 5 or 6? You know what I mean?
It has to be that they still are living in the he's gonna space the floor, right? Like
space the floor and switch kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Like, is that the idea? Like, he doesn't do either of those things well right now, and he can't dribble. Like, he doesn't pass the ball.
Yeah, because he's not even Derek Lively offensively, right? Even if he's the lob threat,
no,
he's not the passer that Derek Lively is.
No, like to me, Lively was a much better prospect to me than Malawach.
Yeah. He's more like archetype, more like Daniel Gafford than Derek Lively, right? Like just like rim protector, lob threat.
Yeah, I think that's basically right.
Like I'm not like there's differences there and all of that, but like because to me there's a difference between Derek Lively on the floor and Daniel Gafford on the floor, and it really what it comes down to me is the passing that Derek Lively has and what he's able to do with that.
Yeah.
I don't think Common does that. So it has, if you think you need to go get him in the top 5, then it's floor spacing or like you just think he's going to be a monster defensively. And I think it has to be more than just drop coverage, right? Like I think today's NBA, I mean, there are some of those guys, but I would assume you'd want a little bit more versatility in that, like you have to be.
If you're taking somebody that high who's not going to be a shot creating big,
yeah, like
because like that's what we can all agree on is like I'm totally open. Like if you think he's going to shoot it, like I don't really agree that he's ever going to shoot it to a level where he actually gets like real closeouts. But if you think that, like I'm willing to hear out that case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you think he's going to turn into like a real switch defender, again, I don't really agree with that, but like I'll hear out the case for it, right? I think we all agree he's just like a pure play finishing big.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So like, can you take somebody at like 5 or 6 that's just a pure play finisher?
Yeah. Again, we've talked about this over and over. I would not trade up if I was I wouldn't trade up to that spot if I was one of these teams.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's the thing. Like I think he's a good player, and I think he's like definitely going to be like an NBA starting center. Well, I shouldn't say definitely. Like there are outcomes, I guess, where he's like Mo Bamba or like whatever, right? Guys that we thought would be starting centers, but like didn't turn out that way. But like very likely to be a good starting center, I think.
If our concerns turn out to be real, like that can be very limiting factors because there's a chance he doesn't have good enough hands to be as if you can't catch the ball, then the offensive rebounds and the lob threat stuff doesn't matter as much if he's dropping every fifth pass. So
Yeah, like it's funny. I was talking to someone on the phone yesterday, and they brought up like, yeah, it seems like he has really good hands, like when it's above his head and like, on lobs and things like that. And I was like, yeah,
Okay.
like actually you are right.
Yep,
Like when
sure.
it's, those plays that they would run with Khan and with
And just throw it up.
Maluwatch
He finished
and
the
just throw the
lobs.
ball up and would finish, right? Like those were actually like pretty fun plays, I thought. And he would actually be able to catch like a little bit out of his area. Like he did have one play where he would like tip the ball in, like, out of his area, like with his left hand, even if I remember correctly. But like, I think it's more like when there's like a lot of things happening around him and he doesn't know necessarily what the assignment is. Like he has somebody like trying to wedge him like underneath to get a defensive rebound, and he's like trying to box out, and then he has another guy coming in and he has to time when to like high point the ball, and he doesn't know where the ball's going. Like that's like, it's like the dynamic, kind of
It almost shows up
hands
more
and like
on
hand-eye
rebounds
coordination.
then. Like it should. Now that you
Yeah.
talk about it, it seems like there were a lot of times where I'm like, he should have had more rebounds, but they either bobbled out or got tipped away. I think you are right that the lobs, there's a lot of impressive ones. Okay, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's like a real play finisher, I think. Like he's an elite play finisher, I think. It's just like maybe this is just me. Like I don't value those guys a crazy amount. Like I guess like maybe that's just my personal evaluation, like theory of basketball is I don't value those guys enough. You could say.
Sure. Yeah.
Because like Hartenstein, like the difference between him and Hartenstein to me is like he can really pass and like you can run actions through him. Like if Maluwatch could really pass it, I would feel totally differently, and I'd probably have him like in the top 5 or so.
Yeah.
It's just that we've never seen it, right? And then somebody asked the question, like, do you think there's a significant difference between Maluwatch and Berenjay? Shout out to And We Back. I think no, if I'm being honest. I do think Maluwatch is a better prospect. Like, I think that he is somebody that is so much better in terms of his overall development right now defensively. Like, he knows where he is supposed to be all the time. And, like, he's much better with his angles than Berenjay. But I think Berenjay has better hands, and I think that he is a better mover than Maluwatch for sure. So, like,
Yeah.
if you wanted to rank Berenjay ahead of Maluwatch, I would understand the case for it.
I have him in the same tier, even though I have Maluwatch higher.
Yeah. Like, I also have Maluwatch higher. I will have Maluwatch at 12. When I update, my guess on where I have Berenjay, I need to like really run through it now that I have the measurements, but like 15 is probably my guess.
Yeah.
On where he ends up. Probably 15 or so. So I have 12 to 15, so I don't see a huge difference.
Sure.
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at on it. I think it's about all we got. I mean, yeah, I think that's it. That all we have today. Bryce, I told you we were going to go for an hour tops, and we went for an hour and a half. So, like, normal podcast for us.
Normal podcast. Yep.
Go, Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky. If you want to look at some later first round, early second round draft prospects, I have some, I think, getting close to 11 video breakdowns by the middle of the week on the Motor City Hoops Substack. That's completely free for anybody to go watch and or subscribe. I also have some free agent acquisitions. So, again, these are a little Piston specific, but you still get the idea. So if your team might be interested in Jake LaRavia or Naz Reid or Sam Merrill, those have all dropped video breakdowns on the Substack as well. Otherwise, the Pistons Pulse podcast and right here, the Game Theory podcast with the Sam Vecenie on our way to 50,000. And a reminder to any new subscribers, we will be live both nights of the NBA draft. So make sure you put it in your plans to join us as we'll break down every single pick.
We are closing in. We will probably be at 45,000 subscribers tomorrow, like right in that ballpark. So we appreciate you guys immensely for coming to hang out. Just so so grateful for all of you guys that have really come to enjoy the show throughout the NBA Finals, have come to enjoy the show throughout the offseason preview series. At some point, Bryce and I are going to do some prospect previews and things like that. Think that tomorrow we're like closing in on being done with the offseason preview recording too. So that's also a really, really fun thing that we're getting there on. Next group coming up for offseason, by the way, I would guess is, let's see here, Utah tomorrow, Washington on the 15th, and then it'll either be the Spurs or Brooklyn on the 16th and 17th. Like those two will be the two, basically, that we get out there then. Go to The Athletic, read the draft guide. I also did a mock draft yesterday where Philadelphia fans were very normal and well-adjusted about it because I traded down twice. The Philly fans right now, I went on the PHLY podcast with Derek and Kyle and Devon. There's just like such split between Philly fans. And like, I'm not saying, I don't appreciate it. And like, they were great. Like I love the PHLY guys, and I love Philly fans by and large. God knows, the Ricky with Spike and Mike. I did say the name here on the show. I adore those guys too. But it's just very funny that there's such a split between those guys, like between the fan base that thinks like they have to take Ace, they have to take Trey Johnson. No, they got to trade down. Like we got to take VJ. Like he's the guy. It's really fun. Like so many fans have like such a strong opinion on it. And I've watched like 90% of the minutes these guys have played this year. And I'm just like, look, I don't know that there's like a guy here that like you got to feel this way about. So, we love those guys over there. I'll be on Slam and Jam tomorrow today by the time you're listening to this. So go over to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. We will be back. Bryce and I will talk. I forgot that Sunday was Father's Day. So we were kind of planning on doing something on Father's Day. I don't know that I will make him do that, actually. We'll talk about this offline. But we'll at least be back on Monday for the next finals game is the plan. So maybe Sunday and Monday, maybe just Monday. We'll figure it out. But that's all we got. Until next time, we'll talk soon.